In the peaceful town of Bermuda lived a hardworking young man named Wilson. Wilson grew up with big dreams. He was the kind of man who believed in hard work, love, and the promise of a better future. Wilson was raised by his widowed mother, a woman who struggled to put food on the table but never let her son go to bed hungry. She always told him, "Wilson, success is not about where you come from, but where you're going. Never stop dreaming, my son." And Wilson held on to those words with all his heart. As Wilson grew older, he worked multiple jobs, helping out at a carpenter's shop during the day and washing cars at night. He wanted a better life for himself and his future family, but while he struggles, love found him in the most unexpected way. One fateful evening, while returning home from work, Wilson's eyes caught a beautiful young woman, standing under a mango tree, laughing with her friends. Her name was Stella. Her smile was bright, her eyes full of life, and the moment Wilson saw her, he felt something he had never felt before. It took him weeks to gather the courage to speak to her, and when he finally did, it was not the smoothest conversation. "Hi, hello. I see you here often, not that I'm stalking you. No, not at all. I just..." Stella laughed. She found his nervousness cute. That was the beginning of their beautiful love story. They spent hours talking about life, their dreams, and their future. Stella was a simple woman, raised in a strict home, and she loved Wilson for his ambition and kindness. Their love grew stronger every day, and soon, Wilson knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. Wilson worked hard to provide for Stella, but life was not easy. They faced financial struggles, days when they had little to eat, but through it all, they held on to each other. One rainy evening, after saving for months, Wilson took Stella to a small restaurant and with shaky hands pulled out a tiny ring. It was nothing fancy, just a simple silver band. "Stella, I don't have much, but what I do have is love for you. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Stella's eyes as she nodded. Their wedding was small but full of love. Friends and family gathered to celebrate, and even though they had little, they danced like they had the world in their hands. A year later, Stella gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Michael. Wilson was overjoyed. He swore to be the best father and husband, to provide for his family no matter what. But as the months passed, reality hit him hard. His job as a carpenter was not enough. His dream of giving Stella and Michael a comfortable life seemed impossible. One evening, as he sat outside their small rented house, lost in thought, Stella came and sat beside him. "Wilson, I know what's on your mind," she said softly. "You're thinking of going abroad, aren't you?" Wilson sighed. He had heard stories of men who traveled to foreign lands and returned successful. If he could just go, work hard, and send money home, he could build them a house, secure their future. "Stella, I want to give you and Michael a good life." It was a difficult decision, but Stella supported him. Selling everything he had, Wilson gathered enough money for his travel expenses. The night before he left, he held Stella and Michael close. "No matter how long I stay, my heart will always be with you," he whispered. The next morning, he boarded a plane for the first time in his life, watching as his country disappeared beneath the clouds. A new life awaited him. Life abroad was not easy. Wilson worked day and night, cleaning offices, lifting heavy boxes in warehouses, saving every penny. He barely slept, barely ate. But he had one goal: to secure a future for his family. Months turned into years. Wilson sent money to Stella regularly. He called every night, listening to Michael's tiny voice over the phone. "Daddy, when are you coming home?" "Soon, my boy, soon." With the money Wilson sent, Stella built a beautiful mansion, a dream home for their family. Wilson was proud. He also sent money to open a supermarket in Stella's name. Business was booming. Everything was falling into place. He worked harder than ever, preparing to return home and enjoy the life he had sacrificed so much for. But unknowingly to him, something terrible was happening back home. While Wilson was away, Stella met another man. Edward. Edward was charming, smooth-talking, and knew exactly what to say. He made Stella feel young, desired. Slowly, she began to change. "Wilson has been gone for too long," Edward whispered to her one night. "Does he think you're not a woman with feelings? Does he think you should just wait forever?" At first, Stella resisted, but temptation won. She and Edward began a secret affair. What started as stolen moments turned into something dangerous. Love turned into deception. One night, after a romantic evening with Edward, Stella sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her reflection. Am I wrong, or has Wilson abandoned me for too long? And then, something happened. She got pregnant. But she wasn't worried. Because Edward had a plan. A deadly plan. Edward convinced Stella that Wilson was no longer needed. He built this house, but is his name on the documents? No. The supermarket is in your name. Everything belongs to you. And soon Wilson will return. What happens then? Will you tell him about the baby? A fear gripped Stella. Wilson could ruin everything. So they made a decision. Wilson had to die. They hired a dangerous serial killer named Jackson to eliminate Wilson the day he arrived. They provided him with everything. Wilson's pictures, what he would be wearing, his flight details. Everything was set. And as Wilson stood at the airport, excited to return home, he sent Stella a picture. I'm coming home, my love. Stella stared at the message, her heart cold. Not for long, she whispered. But fate had other plans. Watch what happened next. Wilson sat by the airplane window, staring at the endless sky. His heart pounded with excitement. After so many years, he was finally going home. He imagined the moment he would walk into his new mansion, hug Stella and Michael, and see the supermarket he had worked so hard to build.
It was all worth it,
he whispered to himself. Little did he know, a deadly trap awaited him. As the plane landed, Wilson grabbed his phone and sent a picture to Stella. I'm coming home, my love. Back home, Stella sat beside Edward. The message popped up on her screen. She stared at it for a moment. Then, without a second thought, she deleted it. Jackson should be in position by now, Edward said coldly. Stella nodded, but for the first time, she felt a strange feeling deep inside her. Was it fear? Guilt? Regret? She pushed the thoughts aside. Wilson was coming home, but he would never make it there. At the airport exit, a man stood near a black car, watching every passenger step out. His name was Jackson. A deadly hitman feared by many. He had taken countless lives without remorse. And today, his target was Wilson. He held a silenced pistol under his jacket, waiting for the perfect moment. Then, he saw him. Wilson stepped out of the airport, carrying his suitcase, dressed in black jacket and jeans. Just as Stella had described. Jackson moved closer. His hand gripped the gun. Just as Jackson was about to pull the trigger, Wilson turned slightly, and their eyes met. Something in Wilson's face stirred an old memory in Jackson's mind. A memory from years ago. A dark night, a desperate man, a moment of kindness. Jackson froze. Sweat dripped down his forehead. His heart pounded. It can't beg. He stepped closer. Wilson walked past him, unaware of the danger. Jackson's hands trembled. He lowered the gun. I need to be sure, he thought. Quickly, he walked up to Wilson and touched his shoulder. Wilson turned around, their eyes met again. Sir, do you remember me? Jackson asked, his voice shaky. Wilson frowned. The face looked familiar, but from where? Jackson swallowed hard. Years ago you saved my life. Wilson's eyes widened. What was this man talking about? Jackson took a deep breath and began to speak. Many years ago, I was homeless, dying of hunger on the streets. I had no hope. I was ready to end my life. But then you came? Wilson listened carefully, his memory slowly coming back. He saw me lying near a garbage bin, starving. Instead of walking away like everyone else, you stopped. You gave me food, money, and told me I was worth more than this life. Tears welled up in Jackson's eyes. That night, I decided to change my life. But things didn't go as planned. I ended up in crime. And now, here I am, sent to kill the very man who once saved me. Wilson stood frozen. He finally remembered. Wait, are you saying someone sent you to kill me? Wilson asked in disbelief. Jackson nodded slowly. Your wife, Stella. And her lover, Edward. Wilson felt like the ground had disappeared beneath him. He was confused. No, that's impossible. Stella. My Stella. The woman I built everything for. Jackson sighed. They gave me your pictures, your flight details. They didn't want you to return home alive. Wilson's breath became heavy. His hands shook. His wife wanted him dead. Why would she do this? He whispered, pain filling his voice. Jackson clenched his jaw. Because she's carrying Edward's child. And because your name is not on any of the property documents. Edward made her transfer everything to his name. You lost everything, Wilson. Wilson staggered back, his world crashing down. A long silence passed. Then Wilson straightened his back. The shock in his eyes turned into something else. Determination. Jackson, will you help me? He asked. Jackson nodded without hesitation. I owe you my life. Tell me what to do. Wilson clenched his fists. Take me to Edward. Back home, Stella paced nervously. It's taking too long, she muttered. Edward laughed. Relax. Jackson never fails. By now, Wilson is gone. Suddenly, a car pulled up in front of the house. Stella and Edward froze. Who is that? Stella whispered. The door swung open. Wilson stepped in. Alive. Behind him stood Jackson. Stella was shocked. Edward's jaw dropped. How? Stella stammered, her hands shaking. Wilson took a slow step forward. His eyes burned with fury. Surprised to see me. My love. Stella's heart stopped. Edward reached for something behind him. But Jackson pulled out his gun and aimed it straight at Edward. Don't move. Jackson whispered angrily. Edward froze. A heavy silence filled the room. Then, Wilson turned to Stella. You were planning to kill me. Stella looked away. She couldn't face him. Wilson took another step forward. After everything I did for you. Stella trembled. Edward's eyes scanned around, looking for an escape. Suddenly, a loud knock on the door, everyone turned. Then, the door burst open. PLC star Median, Edward shocked. Jackson laughed. Game over. Lover boy. The officers grabbed Edward and slammed him to the ground. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, Edward screamed. Stella, do something. But Stella stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. As Edward was dragged away, he shot Stella a hateful look. I did everything for you. But Stella couldn't even speak. She had lost everything, and as the police car drove off, Wilson turned to his wife. His eyes were cold. Pack your things. You're leaving this house today. Stella fell to her knees. Please, Wilson, forgive me, she cried. But Wilson had no more love left for her. He turned his back on her, and then, suddenly, Michael's voice echoed from the stairs. Wilson's heart clenched as he stared at his son. Michael stood at the top of the stairs, his small hands gripping the railing. His wide eyes scanned between his father and mother. Daddy, why are the police here? Why is Mom crying? Wilson swallowed hard. How could he explain this to an innocent child? Stella wiped her tears and rushed to Michael, hugging him tightly. My baby, everything is fine. Mommy is here, she whispered, but her voice trembled. Wilson clenched his fists. Don't lie to him, Stella. Michael looked up at his father, confused. Daddy, what's happening? Wilson took a deep breath and squatted down. Michael, your mother did something very bad. She hurt me. She planned to take everything away from us. But she's my mommy, Michael asked. Wilson's heart ached. I know, son. And I know this is hard for you. But sometimes the people we love the most can hurt us the worst. Michael turned to his mother. Mom, is that true? Stella opened her mouth, but no words came out. Michael took a step back. His little face twisted in pain. Mommy, why? Tears streamed down Stella's face. Michael, I love you. Please don't hate me. But the boy shook his head and ran up the stairs, slamming his door. The sound echoed through the house. Wilson let out a shaky breath. You see what you've done, Stella? Stella cried, falling to her knees. Wilson, please, I made a terrible mistake. I was lonely. I was confused. Please, don't throw me out. Don't break our family. Wilson shook his head. You broke our family the day you betrayed me. Stella crawled to his feet, clutching his leg. Wilson, please, please, for Michael's sake. But Wilson pulled his leg away. You should have thought about Michael before sleeping with another man. Stella's eyes widened in terror. Where will I go? Edward is gone. I have nothing. Wilson laughed. That's not my problem. You made your choice. Now live with it. Stella sobbed uncontrollably.
Wilson, please, I'm pregnant.
Wilson's face remained cold. Then take your baby and go find Edward in prison. Stella screamed in frustration. I'll do anything. Just don't throw me out. Wilson exhaled deeply, his jaw tightening. You were ready to kill me, Stella. You don't deserve my mercy. Stella grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. Wilson, if you throw me out, I'll die. Wilson pulled his arm away. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you betrayed me. The tears fell from Stella's eyes as she whispered, I never stopped loving you, Wilson. Wilson let out a bitter laugh. That's funny, because you were in bed with another man, plotting my murder. Stella cried out loud. I was weak. I was stupid, but I swear I loved you. Wilson shook his head. No, you loved money, you loved comfort, but you never truly loved me. If you did, you wouldn't have done this. He turned away. Pack your things. You have 1 hour? Stella gasped. Wilson's? I said only AUR? Wilson thundered, his voice shaking the walls. Jackson watched silently, arms folded. I think she deserves worse, he muttered. Wilson nodded. She does, but I won't waste another second on her. He turned to Jackson. Thank you for saving my life. I owe you. Jackson smiled. You owe me nothing. You saved me first. The two men shook hands. Good luck, Wilson, Jackson said, then walked away. Stella packed in silence. Her hands shook as she folded Michael's baby clothes, the same ones Wilson had sent from abroad years ago. She looked around the house one last time, the beautiful house that was once hers. The home Wilson had built for their family. Now, she was leaving it all behind. She wiped her tears and picked up her suitcase. Michael stood at the stairs watching. Mom, are you really leaving? He asked softly. Stella's lips trembled. I have no choice, baby. Michael's eyes filled with tears. Where will you go? Stella forced a smile. I'll be okay, my love. Michael took a deep breath, then ran into her arms. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, my son, or more than anything in this world. Stella kissed Michael's forehead. Be a good boy, listen to your dad. Always do the right thing, no matter what. Michael nodded slowly. Stella wiped her tears and turned to Wilson. Goodbye, Wilson. Wilson didn't respond. He just opened the door. Stella stepped out. The door slammed shut behind her. She stood outside, staring at the house. The house she once ruled. The house she lost because of greed. Now she had nothing. As she walked away, the night swallowed her figure, and inside the house, Wilson locked the door. A new chapter of his life had begun. Wilson sat in his home office, staring at a pile of documents. The house was finally in his name. After Stella's betrayal, he had worked with lawyers to reclaim ownership of the mansion and supermarket. It took weeks, but now, everything was legally his own again. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling deeply. It's over. But just as he was beginning to feel at peace, his phone rang. The number was unknown. Hello, a deep voice responded. Wilson, you thought it was over, didn't you? Wilson's grip tightened on the phone. Who is this? The caller laughed. Did you really think Edward was your only enemy? Wilson's heart pounded. What do you want? Simple. If you value your life, leave that house before midnight. The line went dead. Wilson's hands clenched into fists. Not again, he whispered. Wilson called Jackson immediately. I need your help. Jackson arrived within minutes. Who would want you dead now? He asked. Wilson sighed. I don't know. Edward is in prison. Stella is gone. But someone wants me out of this house. Jackson frowned. Something isn't right. This doesn't feel like a random threat. Wilson nodded. Who else would benefit if I was gone? Suddenly, his eyes widened. Stella. Jackson raised an eyebrow. You think she's behind this? Wilson grabbed his phone and searched for Stella's number. No response. We need to find her, Wilson said. Jackson nodded. Let's go. Wilson and Jackson drove through the city, searching for Stella. They checked Halville's apartments. Nothing. Finally, they found her at a small clinic. Wilson stormed inside, his heart racing. Stella! She was sitting on a hospital bed, her face pale. Wilson froze. Her belly was much bigger than before. You're rebbe soon, he muttered. Stella sighed. What do you want, Wilson? He stepped forward. I need to know the truth. Did you send someone to threaten me? Stella's eyes widened in shock. What? No. Wilson, I have nothing left. I wouldn't do that to you. Jackson folded his arms. Then who would? Stella hesitated. She looked down, tears filling her eyes. Edward had connections. Dangerous ones. If he's in prison, his people may think I betrayed them. Wilson and Jackson exchanged glances. So you're saying the threat could be from Edward's people? Wilson asked. Stella nodded slowly. They might want revenge. Wilson exhaled sharply. This isn't over. That night, Wilson sat in his living room waiting. If someone was coming for him, he would be ready. Jackson was outside, watching from a hidden spot. Minutes passed, then an hour. Suddenly, a shadow moved near the gate. Jackson grabbed his gun. Wilson, stay low! Wilson turned off the lights and hid behind the couch. The front door creaked open. A masked man stepped inside holding a gun. He moved slowly, scanning the room. Wilson held his breath. Then, a gunshot rang out. The intruder collapsed. Jackson stepped. Got him, he said. Wilson stood up, his heart racing. Who is he? Jackson pulled off the man's mask. Wilson staggered back. Nob, it can't be. It was one of Edward's business partners. A man known for smuggling illegal goods. Wilson clenched his fists. Edward's reach is deeper than I thought. Jackson sighed. This isn't over, Wilson. If Edward's people want revenge, they won't stop here. Wilson exhaled. Then I have to end this. The next day, Wilson made a call. I want to meet Edward in prison. Jackson's eyes widened. That's a bad idea, Wilson. Wilson shook his head. I need to know what he's planning. Jackson sighed. Fine. But I'm coming with you. The two men drove to the prison. Wilson's stomach twisted as he stepped inside. Finally, he was led into a small room. The door opening and Edward walked in, laughing. Well, look who came to visit. Wilson's jaw clenched. Call off your men. Edward. Edward laughed even harder.
Oh, Wilson.
You still don't get it, do you? He leaned forward. This isn't just about me. You took away my life, my wealth, my woman. Did you really think my people would let that slide? Wilson's hands clenched into fists. I won't let you destroy my life again, Edward. Edward laughed. We'll see about that. Wilson stared into his cold, unforgiving eyes. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Wilson walked out of the prison, his mind racing. Edward was still as dangerous as ever. We need to act fast, Jackson said as they got into the car. Wilson nodded. He's still controlling things from inside. His people won't stop until I'm gone. Jackson exhaled. Then we have to make sure Edward's empire collapses completely. Wilson turned to him. How? Jackson laughed. We go after his remaining men. Take them down before they take you down. Wilson hesitated. You mean, fight back? Jackson nodded. It's either them or you. Wilson clenched his fists.
Then let's finish this.
Wilson and Jackson spent days gathering information. They discovered that Edward's right-hand man, Lucas, was still running operations. If we take him down, the others will fall apart, Jackson said. Wilson agreed. They tracked Lucas to an abandoned warehouse outside the city. This is it? Jackson whispered. Wilson's heart pounded. Let's end this. Wilson and Jackson moved silently through the warehouse. Inside, Lucas sat with 3 armed men. Edward's plan is still on, Lucas was saying. Wilson won't escape this time. Wilson and Jackson exchanged glances. Then, bang. Jackson fired first, hitting one of the men. Chaos erupted. Lucas grabbed a gun and ran. Wilson chased after him. They ran through the dark warehouse, the sound of gunfire echoing behind them. Finally, Wilson tackled Lucas, knocking the gun from his hand. It's over, Wilson shouted. Lucas laughed. You think Edward is the only one after you. You have no idea what's coming. Wilson's eyes narrowed. Tell me what you know, Lucas laughed. It's too late. Suddenly, the warehouse exploded. The blast threw Wilson and Jackson to the ground. Flames erupted everywhere. Wilson coughed, struggling to get up. Lucas was gone. Jackson grabbed his arm. We have to get out. They ran through the burning wreckage, barely making it out before the building collapsed. Wilson gasped for air. Edward is planning something bigger, he said. Jackson nodded. Then we have to stop him before it's too late. 2 days later, Wilson got another anonymous call. Your time is up, Wilson. Wilson's blood ran cold. Who is this? The caller laughed. Let's just say I work for Edward, and we're finishing what we started. Wilson clenched his jaw. You won't win. The caller laughed. We already have. Then he hung up. Wilson's hands trembled. Jackson, they're coming for me. Jackson checked his gun. Let them try. That night, Wilson waited at his house. The lights were off, the doors locked. Then, the front door burst open. 3 men stormed in with weapons. Jackson fired first, taking down one of them. Wilson tackled another, knocking the weapon from his hands. The 3rd man aimed at Wilson, but Jackson shot him first. Silence, then footsteps. Wilson turned. Edward stood in the doorway, smiling. Hello, Wilson. Wilson's heart pounded. You're supposed to be in prison. Edward laughed. Did you really think prison could hold me? Jackson aimed his gun. This ends now. Edward. Edward laughed. You're right, it does. Suddenly, Stella stepped out from behind him. Wilson's breath caught. She looked terrified. Wilson, I didn't know he would come here, she whispered. Edward pulled out a gun and aimed it at Wilson. Say goodbye, old friend. Then bang. A gunshot echoed. Edward's eyes widened. He looked down. Blood poured from his chest. He collapsed. Behind him, Stella held a smoking gun. Tears streamed down her face. I couldn't let him hurt you, she whispered. Wilson stared at her shocked. Jackson lowered his gun. It's over. Edward was gone. His men were scattered. Wilson finally felt free. Stella looked at him, her belly round with Edward's child. I know I can never fix what I did, she said. Wilson took a deep breath. Oh, you made your choice, Stella. Now I have to make mine. She nodded, tears falling. I'll leave, Wilson sighed. Goodbye, Stella. As she walked away, Wilson turned to Jackson. A new life begins now, Jackson smiled. You earned it, my friend. Wilson looked up at the sky. The storm was over, and for the first time in years, he was finally at peace. The end.